What's up, Sunday fams? Welcome back to another video. My name is Flip.
I'm Element.
And we're getting together every week to catch up to some of our favorite Asian dramas. And it's K-drama time. A slice of life drama. Startup.
Studio Dragon is all over the place with another Netflix original series, Startup, starring Suzy. Woo! Can always use more of Suzy. And at the beginning or at the outset of this series, obviously there are some implications of startup, right? We think startup companies, the tech industry, angel investors, all of that stuff. If you've watched Silicon Valley and all of those really nerdy shows about
Shark Tank,
big tech, yeah. Absolutely. But this one's a little bit different. It has definitely an underbelly of the startup industry or the startup world, but there's a definite romance here, and there's definite social dynamic between sisters, a broken family, from the outset. And they did a good job early on. I think most of episode 1 was just this long flashback showing their childhood.
Yeah, and I thought it was a really important setup into this show, into this story. And I thought it was a very important part of this show because it introduces you to all of the important characters in this drama. Sol Dami is, I would say a dirt spoon of the entire story, but so tragic. Like, my eyes were welling up with tears with her story with her father, right? She gets left behind by, her sister, One Inji. Oh, I almost got it. Left behind by her mother and her sister for, a better life. Her mother finds a rich man to marry, all that stuff. And it's kind of, it's just like the slice of life of the struggles of trying to fulfill your dreams or trying to make it in a world where it doesn't have a lot for you. You have to go out and do as much as you can and work as hard as you can. And her father, from It's Not Okay to Not Be Okay, if you are familiar with his face and his work, does such an amazing job of just tears.
He just makes you kind of feel sorry for his situation. It makes you root for him to succeed. And then when you get to that point where you get that, it really tugs on your heartstrings, man.
I was tearing up. I was looking at Element and I was like, dude, I can't help it. I'm just and if my eyes are puffy right now, that's because I was crying.
That was his audition to be in a K-drama, because that's a requisite, right? For any actor entering the K-drama sphere, you gotta well up.
And the romance part that you touched on earlier is really cool. It's like a pen pal situation, but kind of a made up pen pal situation.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of that is her grandma and, this orphan child who kind of just
is a genius at
genius
investing and playing the market, right? But before we get into that, really quick, we have to mention the tension between the sisters was played up really fast. It went from 0 to 100 real quick. They were at a TED Talk with Sandbox, and Dami was there, and she took the microphone, was like, "You think your decision was correct decision?" And then that went into the flashback of the divorce and all of that, and then now it's the sister who was successful, who went with the mom, and the sister who is the dirt spoon of the equation that went with the dad, and now the grandma who was trying to make her feel better about her decision made up a pen pal, as you said, and used Han Ji-pyong to write those letters, and then in comes the love triangle, right? We are in episode 2 where Dalmi is trying to find Dosan, and the grandma finds out. She goes to Hanji and she's like, "We need to find this person." And then
but Nam Do-san happens to be a struggling startup CEO, so to speak, right? He was this math genius when they first found him in the newspaper, but now he has nothing really. He's struggling to make rent, struggling to pay for server fees and all of that nonsense. And a twist of the luck happens to just come into the story where Dalmi starts to look for him because she needs to prove to her sister that her choice with staying with her dad was the right choice. And I just want to touch on just how good the show has kind of portrayed this struggle, right? There are certain choices you make in your life and you have to live with it. But the way her sister is just this prancy little princess, I'm glad that you showed me the other side of your choice because I know that I was right. I was like, I just want to slap.
She's straight up douche.
Oh my
Oh my
god.
gosh, you kind of hate her like immediately. Like, listen, like, okay, so making that kind of decision at that young of an age
Yeah.
between divorced parents is a hugely traumatic and difficult decision for any child to make. But to come up and just be like, I made the right decision because I'm rich, or like I'm well off. I'm sure that pissed both of us off.
Yeah.
When she said that, but so we're rooting for Dalmi at this point. I mean, I think we kind of decided at the beginning of the show we were going to root for Suzy.
And towards the end, Hanji and Dosan kind of like almost kind of cross paths to meet up with Dalmi, and Dalmi finally gets to meet, you know, her knight in shining armor. Or is it really the knight in shining armor? But he just read those letters and now he's feeling sorry for it.
I'm thinking more of like a knight in shining armor, right? Because he wanted to enter Sandbox, or he wanted to be rewarded for doing this, but he read the letters, he saw or felt her emotions, and felt like she deserved to meet this person and not someone who wrote those letters like fake, you know?
But if you think about it, they're both in the same boat. You know, they're both kind of down in their luck. You know, trying to be successful in this tech industry that nobody is bothering to look their way, right? But, you know, speaking of the love triangle, like, I feel like, you know, as we move on into this story, you know, there's going to be a little bit jealousy because those letters really did not come from Dosan. And so, you know, how is that dynamic going to shift?
Yeah, absolutely, and definitely, I think towards the future, Hanji is going to develop feelings for our girl. But I'm just, it's difficult for me to look into the future and see how that plays out. So I'm interested to watch more of this show. But right now, I'm totally rooting. I've never kind of shipped two people so much within 2 episodes. Ever, and now it's just I'm like 100% full bore shipping Dalmi and Dosan.
Yeah, their underdog story is something that you have to appreciate and you have to like really, really root for. I know Hanjae kind of feels like an evil person, but I do think that there's like a soul in there somewhere.
Yeah,
you know,
he's
he
like
came back
outside.
to the grandma. You know, he came back to the grandma,
Yeah.
gave her a hug, and like, you know, I need to pay you back. But like, I think there's a little bit more to that. But the love triangle is going to ensue. I feel like, I don't know, what's your prediction?
Well, I think that's a good point to make about how he's kind of like on the outside, he's cold, calculated investor. On the inside, he's got a soul. I think that's going to be his arc. I think him developing feelings for Dalmi will kind of bring him back to who he was. You know, obviously he was always the genius investor, but it'll bring him back to who he was, who appreciative of the grandma, Miss Choi, and that'll kind of shake things up in the triangle.
Yeah, I feel like they're all gonna work together. He's gonna end up investing into whatever startup that Dosan and Dalmi is going to create.
I disagree with that.
Oh, but the love story part of it is that, you know, Dalmi fell in love with Hanjae with his words, right? And Dosan fell in love with Dalmi with her letters.
Yes.
And so who's in love with who is going to be so awesome to see unfold as we watch more.
Yeah, one thing you can point out though is that some of those letters were written by Miss Choi. Also, a special shout out, we stan Grandma Choi. She is just wholesome as heck. Like taking care of Hanji. He wasn't really truthful in taking her money and investing it, even though he made her a lot more. It was still, she was very forgiving, she was very caring, and like the one thing that she said that just made me stan her even more is when she said, listen, if you make it, if you're successful, don't call me, don't reach out, I don't want to hear from you, right?
Yeah, but if you are feeling down and in the dumps, come and find me.
Absolutely.
Oh, where can I go find a corn dog stand and just bawl out all of my problems to a grandma like her?
We should open up a corn dog stand named Made in Haven.
Made in Haven. Guys, that is it for us right now. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. If you're watching this, oh, it's so good. So good.
Absolutely.
We're going to keep watching it.
But that'll wrap up our first impressions of Startup starring Suzy. Yes, we are definitely going to keep watching it. Look out for the review of 3 and 4 next week. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please leave a like. And if you haven't already, subscribe, turn on bell notifications so you know when we post new videos, and we'll see you next week.